Good morning. This is episode number 7. It's been great. Today we're supposed to have Brian Fenzo on and do an interview, and he had to cancel at the last minute. Completely understand. We're all busy, especially with our businesses and a career. My name is Brian Krieger from KNSS Consulting Group, and one of the things I like to talk about, and the purpose of the show, is talking about cybersecurity for you and your business. This show has been evolving to the point where, it's really helping me learn, get out there, talk to more people, learn from the audience and people that are contributing in the show, in this live blab talk about cybersecurity, different areas, things that, need to look at and be mindful of. So it's really great to be part of this industry and be able to have a voice to speak about, some of the things that are coming out there and the new technologies, threats, some vulnerabilities, as well as some concerns that people might have when it comes to cybersecurity and what you really need to watch out for. So today, I'm just waiting for some people to jump in. I started recording already. I'm just looking here to see if there's anyone tweeting me back on Twitter. I've got a couple screens open here, and I've got some notes that I had from Brian that I think we'll probably talk about a little bit today and go through really kind of what is some concerns this week, some things that people need to be mindful of, as well as kind of have the discussion. I'm hoping to get some people into the other areas here to really talk about cybersecurity and what they think about it and their feelings and what they do to protect themselves, educate themselves, and implement their security strategy as they're going out through day to day. So that's the purpose of this show, and really kind of my goal overall is to help educate people, help educate businesses, potentially build, a client base for myself and work with people to share information, and as well as to help protect people who are growing businesses in this day and age of technology, especially when we're looking at the challenges that we run into. I mean, you look at, and I own a marketing company and I help do business consulting. And over the last 6 months, I've been getting into cybersecurity just because of the challenges that have been happening with my clients. And it's really opened my eyes to kind of think of, okay, what's going on out there? Like, this is kind of, scary, the little tidbits, little nuggets that I was seeing. And then when I started to dive deep and see more and more issues, I realized, how much I really didn't know about protecting myself, protecting my business. And then as more clients came to me, I started to realize the things that they weren't protecting themselves. So when we're talking about, technology, websites, branding, marketing, the content that they're putting out, how much content, how much information, and personal information, and not personal identifiable information, which is PII, but actual personal information that they're putting out there that could potentially make them vulnerable, as well as when they look at your network. And I'm talking about your family, your friends, your clients, colleagues. How much information are they putting out about you? Right? And is it good? Is it bad? Is it too much? Do they need to reel it back a little bit? Those are all the things that through this show I really like to talk about and discuss. I know right now more and more challenges when it comes to ransomware. And if you're not familiar what ransomware is basically, in layman's term, is when a hacker takes control of either your website, your operating system, your PC, your laptop, and then holds you ransom to get your information, get your access to your system back for a certain amount, like a certain price. And I've been seeing this in different documentaries. I've been seeing this in the news now. When it comes to ransomware, it's really scary because what happens is someone might be clicking on a link, you might be going out, all of a sudden your system kind of locks down, there's a splash screen, you're like, oh my God, and it's telling you instructions. We have your system held hostage. If you want to get access to your system, you need to pay X amount of dollars, and most of the times it's in Bitcoin because the security aspect for them, they makes it confidential for them. But if you don't pay this amount, then we won't unlock your system. Now the problem is you don't know if they're going to unlock your system or not. So you kind of run into that challenge of, what do you do? Really, like, what do you do? Do you pay the ransom and hopefully they unlock it? If we pay the ransom, what happens if they don't unlock it? Now you paid, $400, $500, and still have access to your system. So one of the things that I recommend is when you're looking at challenges with ransomware is make sure you have a backup off your system, of your system, and of your data. So what happens is if it ever comes to the chance that you've got compromised, that someone's holding your system, all you have to do is reload the system, reload your applications. I know it's time consuming, but I'd rather lose the system and have to reload it than lose the data. And that's where the value is in the data. It's not in the system itself, because you can reload applications, you can reinstall software, you can reinstall operating system. But when it comes to data, it's very hard, to recreate, especially if it's, historical data, like things that you haven't worked on in a while, like you have to think about, or as well if it's personal or business information, personal information, when I talk about like images, family photos, anything along that line. And then when you get like business information, you have contracts, client information, maybe you have sales sheets and product, information. All that you need to, recreate, and it's kind of a hassle and an expense that you don't want to take on. So if you back everything up offline or in different cloud services or anything along that line that's off your system, if your system ever gets compromised and you get, hacked, that now you have, someone setting up a ransomware situation with you, you go, okay, well, this really sucks. I'm going to be down for a day. You wipe your system, reload it, get you up and going, and then, reload any of your data. And I mean, to be honest with you, you probably in this day and age shouldn't be really storing too much data on your local hard drive. You should be storing in different sources. So what happens is if they ever, a virus, malware, ransomware, anything along that line comes up, at least at that point, you can protect yourself and you can go back and say, you know what, it happened. It's kind of, disappointing, but you can recover from it very quickly. And what I mean by very quickly is, it might take a couple hours to a day to recover, but you still recover. Versus if you have, a situation where now, say you get compromised, you have ransomware, and you lose your data, you lose your documents. Well, how long is that going to take you to recover? Especially if it's business information. Like, do you have to get, your forms recreated? Do you have to get your images recreated? Do you have to do all that? Do you have to get a hold of your graphic designer and do all that? Now you spend all that time, plus now you have to spend money for the graphic designer to do that. I'm just giving an example. The next thing you gotta look at is, websites. Websites are, always being compromised. I mean, I think right now we're up into, 10 or 15 this week of ones that are being unhacked by my web team. So, I mean, even things like that, it's kind of crazy. So, I mean, it's crazy when you look in this day and age when it comes to technology. I mean, technology is supposed to make us more efficient, better connected. And one of the sayings I have on my backboard, and you can see there's a lot of writing there, is software is vulnerable. Software is hackable. Being connected is vulnerable. Right? And I keep that in my mind to really think about when people are talking to me and going, oh yeah, I do this great thing, and I use, this technology and everything is great. And it helps me to manage my time, do all that. I manage my time, be more efficient, make more money, and all those great things. But then when I go to them, I ask, okay, so how are you backing it up? How are you securing that? Oh yeah, don't worry about that. The company does that. And they transfer the liability and responsibility back to the company and not take the responsibility back to themselves. What if that company gets hacked? What if your account on that company gets hacked? Are they going to help you recover? Are they going to do all that? These are the questions you need to ask and understand for your business. And even if you're doing it for personal, you still have to understand what's the repercussions if something does happen. And I mean, it's even good if you go through a test and test it, right? Test the system, put some stuff on it. Like before you start to really utilize the system, test it, break it. And I mean, break it mean, try to hack it, get your information, have your information get corrupted some way. Do all that and work with the company to see how they restore. What's their restoration process? What's their redundancy process? How does that all work? So then what happens is later on when you have an issue, you know how it works. Because say you start putting, 3 gigs, 5 gigs of data, and that's a lot of data. And I'm talking about like if you have images and content and work logs, and I mean just years and years of data into a system, and all of a sudden something happens, you want to make sure you have a reliable system that's going to get you back up and going versus, doing all this work, putting all this data up on these, cloud services. And then what happens is then something goes wrong and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? They're having problems. They're not able to recover it. I never expected that. And now you're, really in trouble now. And now you have to figure out how to solve this problem. So these are some of the things that, we're sitting here and just kind of chatting about, and I'm looking forward to some people jumping in. Like I said, I know we were supposed to have Brian, I think his last name's Fenzo, come in today and do an interview, but last minute he had to cancel. Something came up. So today is just kind of a cyber chat. Just wanted to get some people in here, talk about cybersecurity, and just see how, we can help each other and just learn about what's going on in the industry, what's happening. I know right now, like when you look at cybersecurity, one of the things that kind of really got me interested is that we really have to look at what actions we're taking. I'm going to talk really about marketing and business. A lot of entrepreneurs, small business people, even, large, medium to large size companies are doing it, but they have these security systems in place. But what really hits is the small to medium sized business and the entrepreneurs that are getting out there and trying to do whatever they can to build their business. They're trying to get leads. They're trying to market themselves. They're trying all these different strategies, and they're learning all different strategies from maybe, their colleagues, friends, marketing people, seminars, webinars, things they're going to, and even like maybe online courses they're taking. They're trying to learn all these systems and put them all together and just get out there. But what you find is what happens is sometimes these systems push you so far to get out, but you really don't think about, okay, what's the repercussions of this? If I'm doing all this, push marketing, what's the really repercussions on my company? You have to look at the security of your information, who you're working with. I mean, there's all these different aspects that, I've really had to learn over the last 6 months very quickly. I kind of knew in business, but as I grew, but really came to fruition and came, like a strong foundation that I really had to think about was, who am I working with? Who's my clients? Who's my consultants? Do I have contracts in place for my consultants and people that I work with? All these great things that you're thinking about, working together, you really have to think about how's those relationships good for the company, good for them, as well as is there any potential vulnerabilities or security risks working with them. Someone's jumped in. Hey, Rabbi. If you want to jump into the chat, come on in, or sorry, into the chat, come on in to the video, or if you want to stay in the chat room on the side, that's great. Like I said, we're just talking about cybersecurity. I'd love to know what you do. I'm just looking at your profile. Really not much up there, and your Twitter. So yeah, if you want to jump in and chat, right now I'm just talking about cybersecurity, just things that people have to be concerned about and think about, and really focus on, the areas that all of us really need to think about personally and professionally. Oh, you're from Algeria. Nice. Yeah, like I said, if you want to jump in, come on in. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on cybersecurity. What do you do? Because I know, like what I said, like when you're looking at business and developing, some of the things that we don't think about, writing a business plan, doing all that, is the security aspect, the redundancies, the backups, making sure that we're protecting ourselves when it comes to social media, right? And putting content online. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that affected me, was understanding what I was putting out online. Hey, Teddy, if you want to jump in, come on in. Because I noticed when I was doing, with my marketing company, I was talking to people about marketing, all the stuff they wanted to put out. They wanted to put out, where they're going, the things that are happening day to day, their coffees, their teas, when they're meeting, doing all this great stuff. And I said, you know what? You might want to be mindful of, removing geotagging from your phone as you're doing that. Certain places that you're taking pictures of can actually compromise you in the sense of personal security, because if you're always out and you're running around, are you working from home? Are you a small-based business? You're looking at potential personal security issues that you have to think about. I'm not saying everyone has to do it. You just really have to think about. And it's one of these challenges, like I've heard from a lot of business owners, is they don't kind of really think about, and this is small to medium-sized businesses and entrepreneurs, is the security aspect. They're always thinking about growing, getting leads, getting lead generation, building business, getting more sales. But then when I ask them about some key areas, like how are you backing up your CRM, what happens if potentially your CRM system gets compromised? Do you have some way of protecting it, encrypting it? Are you looking at your data? You're backing it up. The clients that you're working with, are you taking them through a process to make sure they're the right clients for you? Is there some sort of sales funnel that they have to go through? All these different things. And then when you look at your team, your internal team of, is it, employees or consultants? Do you have the right contracts in place and policies in place that if something would happen? And something I've seen over the last probably 7-8 years. Yeah, I think it's about that. It's outsourcing overseas. And the more and more people outsource, right? Making sure you have the right relationships. And then you have, trials and tests that you take them through to make sure they're the right team to work with. Because I've seen where people have lost code, or they've paid a company to develop an application, right? It might be like a smartphone application. And all of a sudden they're ready to launch the application, and then the company's no longer there. They can't get a hold of them, and they've lost all that code. Right, so how to do that properly and set up those relationships? How to, and I'll use that example as developing an app. How to take the code in sections, right, and project sections that you're saying, okay, in first quarter of this project, we're going to be doing this code. I want to develop it. And every time we hit a certain point, you send me a copy of the code. So again, if they ever, run with the code, that you still have a copy. And then I guess, overseas and all that, you have to look at legalities and all that challenges, but at least you have the source code that maybe if you need to go somewhere else. I've seen that with graphics. I've seen that with logos, right? Other companies overseas where they've used someone's logo in another marketing campaign. So there are all these different challenges. So let's see what we got here. Who's in the chat? Teddy's a business consultant, federal, state, financial disaster recovery specialist. Oh, awesome. I'd love to, hear about what you do, Teddy. If you want to jump into the seat beside me. I think we lost Rabbi. Yeah, this is the one thing that I think is really important, having these discussions when it comes to cyber chat, right, and cybersecurity, just because I think with technology, what happens is we really don't consider the security aspects of it, because it's great. Don't get me wrong. I've got my iPhone beside me, but you have your technology. If it's a mobile device and you're checking email, you're maybe using the apps on the phone. Like for me, I use Evernote, use my project management tools, everything off my mobile devices, and having that accessibility that I can have a mobile office wherever I am, that I can set up my laptop, set up my phone, and I'm good to go, and I can do a lot of my work, gives you that availability to work and to have access anywhere. But also with availability can affect the confidentiality and data integrity, because what happens is if you're not looking after your systems and protecting them, you could get compromised. I heard the other day someone was talking about a man-in-the-middle attack where someone was at a Starbucks and it looked like they were logging into Starbucks Wi-Fi, but really they were logging into a hacker's man-in-the-middle attack, which is when they set up their own Wi-Fi connection that looks like Starbucks connection, and they collect all your data, right? So they collect all your information, and it's called sniffing. And what they do is they're collecting all your data, all your packets, and everything that's going on the internet, and they're trying to look for your usernames, your passwords, any data, and they're just capturing all this information. So some people do their banking at Starbucks, and they're having a coffee, and they're logging to Facebook, their social sites. Maybe they're doing some banking. Maybe they're logging into what else would they be logging to? Their work, their work email, and that person now is tracking everything. So it's really scary. So Tay's just saying, unfortunately, I'm not available to chat online, but I can chat. I'm a financial recovery specialist for clients who have suffered from storms. Ah, okay. It's pretty cool. So are you talking about like natural disasters when people have like hurricanes, tornadoes, and things like that. Is that kind of the idea? Perfect. That's awesome. Now, here, let's talk about that aspect of it. Natural disasters. How can people protect themselves, right? When we're talking about, security, how can people be secure if, are they looking at insurance? Do they need to put, a nest egg and some money away? What's the type of way to kind of secure themselves that if they ever got hit by a storm, right, that they can recover? Just wait for Teddy. I'm excited to hear that because, cybersecurity hits all different aspects of people. It's not just, technology. It hits you at your personal level too. It can affect your personal life. It can affect your day-to-day. It can affect, your family. It can affect a lot of people, your friends. Teddy's just saying that is why what you are saying is important. Insurance. Insurance is a way to protect yourself. Now, are you from the U.S., Teddy? So here's a question for you, and no judgment on any of the systems or anything, but do you find, as someone that consults and helps people, that some insurance companies give people a hard time when they're trying to get their claims? No? Okay. I'm just I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately over the last, well, actually, you know what? I wouldn't say lately. I've been watching a lot of documentaries probably over the last, 5 to 10 years. And you hear a lot of times when people are trying to get insurance claims. I'll give you an example. Toronto had a flood, a problem with our sewer system. It backed up and people had floods in their basement. And if they didn't have basement flood insurance, they weren't getting their basements re-renovated and fixed, because what happens, their insurance didn't cover that. Well, a lot of people didn't know there was this type of insurance. They thought it was covered by water damage. So there's a lot of people in Toronto who are having problems with insurance companies because there was this new insurance policy that we're putting in. That's why I was asking that. And I've watched, like I said, documentaries where people were saying, for insurance companies, they had problems. They had a lot of problems to kind of prove it and what was it and how much. And, they're just giving them such a hard time. But it's great to hear that, the people that you work, are not having a hard time with it. Because the reason why I say that is I find it's so sad is that the people are going through a disaster and they're trying to recover and they're trying to do all this. And what happens is, they want support. They want someone to just, to care and help them. But then what happens is the insurance companies are, the insurance companies that I've seen are giving people a hard time. It's like, oh, that's just really so sad because, they're trying to recover. Maybe they've lost a lot of personal items and, knock on wood, they haven't lost any family members, but, it potentially does happen. Teddy's just saying, this is why I say no, because it's mostly the consumer does not realize they don't have specific coverage. Good to know. So something I think Teddy and I'm going to recommend is always be in contact with your insurance broker or your consultant or whoever you're working with to make sure your policy is up to date. If any changes happen, that your policy is always up to date, that you have the right coverage for you. So something, sounds like Teddy's great. He's in the U.S. So, let me see. I'll see if I can get if you guys want to talk about financial disaster recovery or storms recovery, tweet at Teddy55. Teddy sounds like a pretty good guy, pretty knowledgeable what he does. So tweet Teddy and see how he can help you. I know for me, when it comes to cybersecurity on the technology side and the personal side, it's interesting. It's developing more than I thought. Like I said, I've been studying it and kind of researching since I started my marketing company, because a lot of my clients were coming back and saying, I lost data, I lost this, my website got hacked. Oh my God, I got hacked in Facebook or my social site, and someone took over and held it hostage. And they're losing, I had one client that had 15,000 followers on Twitter, and they lost the whole Twitter account. So now how do they recover from that? If they've built up relationships, they've built up that following to market, to build a relationship. Now they don't have them anymore, so they have to start from scratch. And some of them did it ethically, and that took them years to grow, versus some people do it and they pay for followers, which is not really good when it comes to business, but that's another video. But when it comes to them losing that, now they've lost all that community that they were in, potential clients, now to a potential hack. So how do they recover from that? And then I realized as I started to learn how it affected people, professionally, how it affected people personally, how it affected their family, how it affected their friends, and all different areas of compromises, not just the sense of, your business, your website, but when people lost financial information, they got hacked, or their personal information was shared online and they didn't expect it. I'll give you an example with one of my clients had their Facebook account, all the policies, all the check boxes, everything was up, was private. No one could see it, but they had one friend that had an open profile. And what happened, that friend was sharing their posts. So as they shared their posts, they were sharing pictures of their kids, sharing what they were doing when they're going on vacation. And what happened was their kids' photos started to get shared online. And it got to the point where the parents got concerned because some of the sites weren't really, parent approved, I'll call, sites. And now the parents are freaking out, like, what's going on? And it's one of those things that you have to be mindful of. And it's why I've really got into this field and dove deep, and it's like some passion to my heart, is because I see how important it is to look at all areas and not to be scared and feared of all the technology and Big Brother and all that, but to educate yourself and to be knowledgeable of what you can do and what you should be mindful of, what you should protect yourself against. Now, what do you think, Teddy? It's one of those things that, as we're sitting here and we're just kind of chatting away, it's one of those things that I think more people are being mindful of as the media, as more people cover it. I think we're having these conversations and talking about it, but I think it needs to be more. And I think it needs to be more of a community conversation, because you're always going to hear someone, a friend, a family member, I've had this situation. And now you have to kind of figure out, okay, what did you do? What happened? And as you learn more, you really realize, okay, well, maybe I have to be more careful. Maybe I have to have a password policy. And you'll give you an example here, is a password policy for all your accounts. Say you use Facebook, you use Twitter, you have email, you have somewhere you log into, a secure system. All those systems, and say it's your bank, whatever that may be, all those should have different usernames and passwords. It shouldn't be one username and one password to be convenient that goes all across. Because if you get compromised on one system, then that means they can go through all of them. If they just kind of social engineer you, they can figure out, who you bank with, where's your social sites, what you do, where you work, and they can just kind of go through your whole profile, your online profile, or your technology. And Teddy's saying he agree totally. Do you suggest VPN? If so, do you recommend any specific? I'm getting into VPNs right now. I mean, you look at HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transport Protocol Secure, which maybe uses like secure socket layer or transport layer security, which means that your data, and to kind of bring it down to layman's term, is your data is protected. So a lot of times what you'll see, and you see on the browser, it says HTTPS, it means your communication to that website is encrypted. It's protected. Now, when it comes to VPN, yes, I do recommend people think about VPN connections, but make sure that you have it set up properly. And when you look at companies, if you're looking from an external connection to your internal company, yes, for sure, you need to have an encrypted connection, some sort of security that is going to encrypt it, because you don't want someone sniffing the network, maybe listening over Wi-Fi and capturing your information. So I do recommend VPN now. I'm just getting into it, right, when it comes to VPN. And this is why I'm completely transparent. Like I said, I'm 6 months into the industry talking about cybersecurity and kind of working it. And yeah, I do recommend, from what I've read and what I've known from working for companies. I worked for the Ontario government in the IT department from 2001 to 2006. And we used VPN, and I totally saw the challenges back then of not using VPN. And I totally recommend people, when they're looking at sending information online through different connections, that you look at secure connections, and VPN is one. And VPN, so if you guys are watching this and might not know, it stands for Virtual Private Network. And basically what it is it takes the host and the server, I'll call it, the two connection points. And what it does is it secures that connection all the way through. Hey, Carlos, I just saw you jump in. If you want to jump into the hot seat on the side, I love to hear what you do and what you think about cybersecurity. Teddy's been amazing, kind of giving a lot of great information. He's helping people with insurance and recovery, disaster recovery. Yeah, I mean, I think Teddy, like, yeah, if you have a VPN, set it up. Send me an email because I work with another colleague that's a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more senior than I am. And what I can do is I can ask that question for you and get back to you. My email address is info@knssconsulting.com. So if you want to email me, and yeah, I could find out which VPNs. Now, the one thing I would say is that when I do the research and I find out for you, I don't know, how technical are you? Awesome. Good. Yeah. So then I'll find out for you and then see if there's any white papers or anything about how to set it up. So at least that you can kind of run with it and set it up and then test it and then see which works. So do you have any concerns about cybersecurity, Teddy? Like if you could list 5 things that concern you about cybersecurity, what would those 5 things be? Some of the things that when I first got into this in cybersecurity really kind of concerned me was my personal information, right? My personal identifiable information and how companies were using it. I'll give you an example. Like one of the things that's kind of threw me off was the phone company. I called the phone company just to test to see what their validation process was, and it was so laxed to the point where they only asked for 3 points of information that is public knowledge. It wasn't the point that it was confidential. I mean, they asked for my name, my phone number, my mailing address, and my postal code. And then they gave me access to my account. So, and when I called, I was like, okay. And then I was like, hold on, this is really concerning me because can anyone call in? So I called back to another agent just to see that's the process. Sure enough, that's all they asked for. Right? And to me, that's concerning because I was able to change my account and my billing information, which means that someone can get access to my credit card. Right now, they have only the last 4 digits on my card, but the last 4 digits, I mean, if I can get access, if I can get my username and password and say something like me, right, just an average user, and I'm just going to use this as an example, had the password, the username and password for that phone company. Well, now I have my username, I have my password, I have the last 4 digits of my credit card, or of the potential mark's credit card, and I'll use me as the mark. I have all that information. Now I can go to another company. Potentially, I can see that the subject that I'm trying to compromise, Brandon. I can see he's on social sites. I see he can talk about, oh yeah, I do this, I do that. Oh yeah, I really like my bank. I really like this. Now I can call them and say, hey, you know what? I can't get in my account. What's the last 4 digits? What's the username, password? What's my information? And then they're going to go, okay, well, can you confirm your account? Well, I have my date of birth. I have my actually name, mailing address, postal code. Oh, and I have the last 4 digits on my credit card. Right there, they go, oh, okay, yeah, here, you're in. We'll send your password. Oh, yeah, you know what? My email address has changed. Can you email it to my new email address? And then boom, he's in. Taking my 3 concerns with cybersecurity is banking, personal, and medical information. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm just saying right now, right? The banking information, right, is, how hard is it to compromise? And I had to call my phone company, my bank, and get them to set up a secure password as well, right? That when I call in now, there's a secure password that only I have access to. And I have different passwords for different companies because what happens, I know, one gets compromised, and this is this thing that when you look at people being compromised on the internet, their cybersecurity, anything along that line, it's not if you're going to get compromised, it's when you're going to get compromised, right? Because again, software is hackable, right? So it's not the point that, you're never going to be hacked. There's nothing. You're a small company, and no one's ever going to touch you. You don't do much. Compromise can happen all the time. It just when's that date and time, or it can be a global thing that. And I mean global as in the earth. I mean a global thing that company, that entire company gets compromised. And look at the Ashley Madison hack, right? Everyone heard about that in the news. Well, that hack, it wasn't just one person's account. It was the whole company that got compromised. Now all those account information got publicized. Now everyone that was vulnerable got compromised. Now they're worrying about their identity, the public relations, and how it affected their presence. And some people committed suicide. It was horrific. And now there's, I think, a class action lawsuit against them. It's crazy. So yeah, I mean, when you look at your, like Teddy's saying, your banking information, your medical information, how do you protect that? How do you, as a user, and this is where we have to be empowered, is you making the call and saying, you know what, I want this more protected. I want more security. I want more encryption. And Teddy just saying, I know cell phone carriers are getting more layers of security when calling for support, which is great because, again, they have access. See, this is where it gets layered approach and challenges, is that your phone company has access to your banking information because a lot of them want your credit card information for, you to sign up. So they have, or some people have direct deposit, right? Or direct withdrawal, I would call it, right? So what happens is they're pulling your payments out. So they have access to your account. Well, if I get access as a hacker to that, I can pull information out of your account too. So it's good to hear that cell phone carriers are getting a little bit more security when it comes to that, because again, I mean, with all the apps that are out there and developed, and here's something that's kind of really a tip, or, a cybersecurity warning just to watch out for. When you look at applications, or you look at free applications, a lot of them have banners. And the banners sometimes have scripts in it. Now, I'll use iPhone and I'll pick on Apple on this. They don't have an auditing or an assessment process to assess the code to make sure it's not a cross-site script, I think it's called, where it's a script in the background, cross-site script. There it is. And it's not a script in the background where someone clicks on it and it collects the information or embeds something into that person's phone, right? And you look at some of the applications on the phones, what happens is, if you're not reading the terms of service, you might not realize that it's asking for access to your phone, your camera, your microphone, right? Other applications that might be on your phone, right? It's asking for this access. And if that application gets compromised, now it has access to all those data points on your phone. Now what happens? And then what happens is, if they get access to that, and maybe they get your username and password, and maybe you're doing your banking on your phone, they get right into the code, and they're able to pull all that information. Now they can access your carrier, your phone carrier, and then they can go right through. So it's really kind of good. It's good that Hayes bring that up. I mean, you really have to be mindful of all areas and ask the right questions. And that's why the point of this show is to ask the right questions. Ask the companies. Anytime you're purchasing some sort of technology, especially when you look at the Internet of Things, software, ask the hard questions. How is it secured? How is it backed up? How am I going to patch this? Is it patched? Is there frequent software updates? How many times are they pushed out? You have these conversations with the companies, because your buying power will tell companies to make sure they do the right things, to make sure they implement security, or you'll go to someone that does, right? You'll go to the competitor who is taking the time to consider your well-being, your security, right, and your privacy. Challenges, like when you look at like the Internet of Things, there's so many different technologies that are coming out right now that, for example, smartphones, smart TVs, connection to your washer, your dryer, your refrigerator, your stove, your thermostat, your lighting, all can be controlled by a console that's on your iPad. So what happens is they're all connected and can be compromised from one access point. So if someone hacks into your iPad, well, now they can control all those areas, right? And then you look at smart cars, and then they're having Wi-Fi access. Again, I posted a video in one of the forums that I'm part of about guys showing how they hacked a Jeep remotely, how they compromised the Jeep, was able to take over the brakes, the steering, everything. And it's so dangerous. But this is something you got to think about. You got to kind of go, okay, well, how does a company, as you're purchasing it, how do they protect it? How do they encrypt it? How do they make sure it's secure that it can't be compromised? How do they do updates? And these are the questions that we need to ask before we buy. So Teddy, let me ask you this. What do you do to secure yourself? What are some areas that you look at that you've implemented that help you kind of secure you and then your business? Now, this is something like I really like to ask people, because people like Teddy, who deal with financial, who deal with people's insurance, really kind of understand that security is a real important area for their business and for their clients. If they don't have that in place, what happens is, they can be vulnerable to attacks. They can be vulnerable to compromises. And if their client's information or data gets out, it can really affect their business. I also work for a corporation, and IT is great. Oh, nice. So what do you do yourself, Teddy? What's the kind of some key points that you take that you secure? You're saying, you implement. Is it redundancy? Is it backup? Do you look at encryption? Do you ask, what type of questions do you ask? Because I think it's important to see that other people are thinking about these security concerns as well as they're going through their day-to-day and their business growth, as well as their personal life. See, one thing I found with working with companies, big corporations, the change when it comes to security is sometimes a slow process. Unless something happens, there's an incident, then change happens very quickly. But and understand, I'm not saying it's a fault of a big company, but what happens is they have to go through change management. They have to go through testing. They have to go through, the implementation, and then they have to have a monitoring phase where they're monitoring, make sure everything from what they've tested and what they implement is working and there's no problems. I know when I worked 2001, 2002, I worked at a help desk, and listening and hearing through incidents and change management and tickets that are coming through, it made a lot of sense that companies are slower moving, bigger organizations, big corporations are slower moving because there's a lot of moving parts. But it comes to compromises, it's hard because sometimes software, hardware in a corporation, some of their devices, some of their software can be vulnerable, and now they have to patch it, they have to update it, but they have to test it. So it takes some time to do that. And through that process, they can be compromised. So that's why I was saying with corporations, it's great that, big corporations are implementing security, but I know and I appreciate it takes time. It takes time to implement security because they have a lot of moving parts. So I'd like to hear how Teddy protects himself. We use VPN, a company computer for security that they don't push back up. I'm a stickler for backup all of my computers and keeping up virus software. Now, here's something about virus software, and it's a little scary because, I know when I've worked for a few companies, McAfee, Symantec. One of the challenges that kept coming up was that when new malware, new viruses were out there, the companies were sometimes behind because the virus definitions haven't been written yet for those viruses or malware. They were just so new. It wasn't the fault of McAfee or Symantec or the updating policy of the company. It was just that the virus was so new that Symantec or McAfee didn't have time to write. So it was always this catch-up game. The companies were always trying to protect people, but they're always behind. And this is something that Ted just brought up is backups. Make sure you have backups, right? Viruses and all that and virus software are great to have, but they're like 85 to 90% protection, because there's always that point where someone writes a new code or something out there that the virus scanner won't pick up. I need to find a good VPN for my personal Mac computer, but I can't stress enough backing up your computer. Exactly. And have redundant backups, not just one. In the sense of when you're looking at security, you want to make sure you have a backups that you can recover from and have them in multiple situations. One of the things you got to look at, worst case scenario, and this is great that Teddy talks about storms, right, and helps people recover from storms and insurance, is say, for example, you have an external hard drive at your office or your residence, and you're backing up your data there. Well, say, for example, a storm hits your place, your house, your condo, whatever that may be. What happens is you'll find is if you lose everything, one second. If you lose everything, you lose your house, you lose your place, there's water damage, anything along that line in your office. What happens is you might not be able to recover that hard drive because the hard drive might be damaged, right? That external hard drive. So what you have to do is, have an external backup off-site. And a lot of companies talk about off-site backups, but now with cloud type services, you can have your external backup on top of having an off-site backup of a cloud service. And from there, and I know I use Backblaze as one of my tools, and then you have, a redundant backup. So if you ever lose your hard drive, then at least you have, an area to restore. Hey, Terry, if you ever want to jump in, come on in. And we got Pro Tech Guy. Yeah, if you guys want to jump into the chat, we're just talking about cybersecurity. Backblaze plus Synology, my go-to. Awesome. Yeah, if you want to jump in, share kind of some knowledge. And Teddy and I have just been chatting about security, VPNs. Yes, cloud servers have, Teddy's just saying, yes, cloud servers have assisted with backups. So, this is what you have to look at. You have to look at, security is looking at all different areas. And when you're looking at viruses or compromises, if you have a clean backup, you're able to restore it. And like I said, virus software is great, but it's only like 85 to 90% because, again, if the virus definition doesn't pick up that virus because it's so new, you can still get compromised. So having a good, clean backup and making sure your backups are done on a regular basis, and I recommend people have, a backup at least once a week, if not more frequent. I know a lot of these systems like Backblaze, that's the one I use, has continuous backup. So your system's always backed up and you can back up, external. You can do this, which is great, is you can back up your device. And I'll use my laptop as an example. The laptop can have an external hard drive that's, backing up the drive, and Backblaze can back up both. So what happens is you have that redundant system. Founder, owner, geek, and IT consultant, power tech guy. Yeah, if you want to jump in to the chat, it'd be great. Have some discussions. The thing, it's really good that we're having these discussions about cyber chat, cybersecurity, just really talking about this because I think, and you guys can tell me, do you find that more and more people now are starting to ask questions about it? Do you find the industry in a whole is starting to grow because clients are asking, how do I protect myself? How do I back up? And are you finding more that it's something that we need to talk about, something that we need to be more mindful of? Looks like we lost Terry. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Look at in business and this is what Teddy's saying, in business, when a storm hits, no one thinks to pick up computers or servers off the floor. Computer systems are damaged, and the downtime costs the clients lost revenue. Pro tech guy, I require managed clients to have backups to much going on with crypto infections to risk it. So, and exactly what Teddy's talking about is, how many of you have like a go kit where if a storm hit that you grabbed a knapsack, and your laptop, your hard drives and threw it in? You probably wouldn't even think that. And you probably think, get out, go, 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 go. You're not thinking about grabbing things. You're thinking about get out and be safe. When you look at the threat model, people look at personal safety first, right? They don't look at, hey, Ryan, how's it going? Jump on in if you want to. When you look at personal safety, they look at the threat model. They look at getting out of this situation. If there's a fire, if there's a storm, whatever that may be, they're trying to get out. They're not thinking about, okay, well, hold on. There's a fire. Where's my knapsack? Where's my bag? Let me grab my hard drive. Let me grab my laptop. Let me grab my backup drive. They're not thinking that. They're thinking, go. Where's the kids? Where's the wife? Where's the husband? Where's the dog? Go, 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 go. So good point. And then ProTech, I require managed clients to have backups, which is great. I mean, that's always good when you're looking at, you're managing your clients and having them have backup. Too much going on with crypto. So tell me a little bit more about that. What's going on with crypto infections? Hey, Ryan, do you want to jump in? Ryan's one of my colleagues that is amazing, and I work with, and he deals with cybersecurity when it comes to children, right? And teenagers and kids and how they can protect themselves. So Ryan's a great resource when it comes to that. Hey, Ryan.
How you doing, Brandon?
Not bad. It's been busy. I'm sure you're finding it too.
That I have. Wow. Crypto infections. That's an interesting topic too. Wow.
Crypto locker says there's no real solution or fix. If so, have to go to backup. So crypto locker, or what we're hearing is ransomware.
Yes.
Ransomware, hacks or compromise. I talked about that earlier, how it's on the rise, and the point of what you're finding, and I'm sure you can kind of tell me what you think, is that people are getting so compromised that there's not much they can do. And the problem is, and I talked about this earlier, is that your site is encrypted, your PC, your laptop's encrypted, you don't have any access to it. Now what do? Do you pay the ransom, right? Do you do that? Or on the other side of not paying the ransom, if you pay the ransom, do they really unencrypt it? Right? So
no, they don't. No, it is a huge issue.
This is why, like, ProTech guy. Hey, ProTech guy, what's your name? I just want to call you by your first name. What they're finding is, I'm sure, and this is happening, is that they're finding that people don't have backups, they can't recover, and now they're kind of in the point they're screwed.
Yeah, they're totally screwed. That's why I'm a big proponent of running on a virtual machine, running VMware.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I caught the tail end of what I think you were talking about was emergency preparedness.
Yeah, because Teddy does what he does is he does insurance and helps people with storms.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking about kind of his field and what he does, and that one of the things he was saying about, and we were just talking about what's areas that he would recommend protecting. And one of the things he was just saying that, which makes total sense, is that when it comes to a storm, right, a lot of people don't think about grabbing their technology. They think about, getting out.
So which guy was that that was making those comments? Insurance. Eddie. Okay. So in one of the modules, I talk about digital emergency preparedness. And from a personal standpoint, and it's a complete overlap into a business standpoint, you never know when your home or your business is going to be damaged from a fire, from a flood, from a tornado. You don't know. And inside of our residence, we have everything pretty much in paper. Our mortgage, our health insurance documentations with the little cards, driver's license, passports, everything resides in a paper form, and it can be scattered throughout your house. So if that trauma is going to come and you want to secure all your important documents, that could take you a good 2 hours to find everything. That is, if you have not taken the inventory of which documents you need to grab. So I'm a huge proponent, and I wrote a checklist of all important documents that you should have in duplicate, in a digital file, in a cryptic container stored off-site. So if you experience a trauma and your house gets burned to the ground, God forbid, it won't take you months to reset and restore all of this documentation that you just lost.
Exactly. And Teddy's saying this summer in Houston, Texas suffered a freak Memorial Day storm, and water got into the buildings. A few inches of water took down 4 pieces of equipment worth $1.5 million to replace, and they haven't recovered revenue yet.
Oh my. You know, Teddy, that is probably not an isolated story. That is probably not an anecdotal story. You're in that business. You probably have tons of horror stories like that.
Well, think about it this way, and this is kind of where I play in, is the small business, the entrepreneur, and the medium-sized business. Teddy's saying, like, hey, they still haven't recovered in revenue. Imagine a small business that makes $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, and they take a massive hit in their environment, be it their home-based business, or they take a hit when it comes to their local brick-and-mortar type location.
Yep.
You know, them recovering. I mean, he's talking about a company is not able to recover from 1.5, like 4 pieces of equipment worth $1.5 million. What happens if you have a local graphic design shop and you're doing all that stuff when it comes to local graphic design, and you lose your Mac, you lose your iMac, you lose your MacBook Pro, and you lose all the design stuff? Now what do? Right? You're a web designer, you're doing all that, and you're done, right? You're done in your business, and hopefully your insurance will get you back up and going, but is it covered? Do you have the right insurance plan? This is what Teddy and I were talking about, is always have that at least monthly review or consistent review with your insurance broker to make sure you have the right policies in place. But even that, like, if you don't have the right policy, you don't have the right coverage and protection, you don't do all that, you don't have, like you're saying, have all that offsite information. And here's an example. What if me as a company had all that data, client information, say graphic design, marketing material, all on an external hard drive?
Yep.
And also there was water damage on that. I lose all that. Now client says, okay, I need that. Well, sorry, we have water damage. How does it affect my business?
Oh, you're hosed. You're hosed. That's why, like, for me, I've been through the water damage in the residence. Now, fortunately, most of my sensitive stuff was stocked in a firebox. But then I took my vigilance another level, that I took all of my data and I turned it into a digital format. I have my paper copies, but I have it in a digital place, stored remotely. It's in a cryptic container. It's encrypted. Nobody can get access to it except for my immediate family with the passphrase. That if something happened to me or something happened to my dwelling, there's one place that it all resides. And then I developed the behavior that every Monday morning, I would create a video disc. It's now an MP3 file, MP4 file at this point, that's giving instructions to my wife and my daughter and my family if I got hit by a bus. So I refresh that every week, but it's instructions. This is what has changed in the past week. This is where this resides. And then it's like a eulogy saying goodbye to my wife and daughter. But I have no idea when I'm ever going to go. And I'd rather have my family have the most recent information out from where my heart was, as opposed to, I wonder what he was thinking when that happened.
Right. And that's true.
It's crazy.
One of the things, you have to look at is the preparedness. We're talking about cybersecurity and business, and then Teddy's, covering people on the kind of the personal level and business when it comes to disaster recovery. But it's something that you have to think about all aspects when you run a business. It's not the point nowadays where you can be a small business or entrepreneur, even just, a person in this day and age, and not think of all these aspects, all these areas, because if you're ignorant to it or just let it go or procrastinate, then what happens is, you get caught with your pants down. And then what happens now, you're screwed, and you're trying to recover. Two, now you're paying a lot of money to recover, right? Because potentially you have to get all the data and information and time and all that back. And then like Teddy's saying, sometimes people like with companies challenge with revenue. Well, now you're paying money out, but you're not getting money coming back in. So now your business starts to go down.
I'd be very curious from Teddy's experience and from yours, Brandon, that people that are involved in business, regardless of their age, at what point are they having the conversation about the various insurable needs that they will have, both for the business, both in key man policies and for the family, and then how many of those have protected that in a will? So I'm curious from your experience, when you talk about this issue, how many have had a proactive discussion about insurance, key man policies, and incorporate a will?
Well, let's do this. We'll ask Teddy and we'll ask Kyle. Teddy's saying not enough. And we'll ask Kyle, like, do they do it? Two, what's their experience? I know for me, it's one of those conversations when you have small businesses, when it talks about wills and anything along that line, personally, a lot of them do have it. But when it talks about company, on the company side of incorporating who's the benefactor, who's going to look after, what's happening, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have that protection to say, if something happened to me, the hit by a bus policy, I think that's what some of the insurance people call it. Teddy can kind of tell me, right? It's where you walk out and you get hit by, walk off the curb and get hit by a bus. What do? Right? Does your company keep going? Does someone take your place? Does it keep, or does it get closed down? Like, what's that strategy, right? And a lot of people don't.
That would typically be evidenced in the business or marketing plan to address the what if you're hit by a bus scenario, and then the insurance would be an element wrapped into the business plan. But I don't know many entrepreneurs that could structure a business plan.
And look, and like Kyle said, can't say I do, to be honest. So even himself, and Kyle, like, if you were going to rank your business, is it a small business? Are you a medium-sized business? Like where do you sit? And like Teddy's saying exactly, I haven't seen key person insurance at all in the 10 years I've been doing this business. Wow.
Holy smokes.
So hold on. Teddy, there you go. There's your new niche market. Educate people on that alone.
So I've had people, so if you have somebody that's a producer for a company and that you're relying upon 20% of that person's activity to generate revenue to support the company, it's insane for the employer not to have key man insurance on that performer, so it doesn't chop out 20% of the revenue of the company on the what if they hit by the bus scenario on that individual. So I've been affiliated with companies when I've been a performer. They're going, Ryan, it's time that we set up key man insurance on you. I'm like, that's cool. Let me contribute too, because I want a beneficiary of that to go back to my family as well. But
right.
If you're telling me people haven't done it you haven't seen it in 10 years? Guys, when is the last time you've seen someone named successors? Yeah, because it's very much a narcissistic-based society, and nobody ever dies.
I'm dealing with a client right now. The narcissistic is a key thing right now, where we're trying to educate them how business and marketing, and it's a infrastructure operation type model, not I'm the dictator, this is what I say and this is what I do, right? Even when we're talking about like they're building their business, we talk about, you got to think about your team and have them educate the business and how it grows. And when you're talking about successors, you can kind of see, like in this model, that this one business, you can see that the successors will not be there because the narcissistic approach is it's me and it's only me. Yeah,
and those are destined to short-term success but long-term failure. There's an epidemic of narcissism in business. And
for sure.
Are modeling the Donald Trump kind of conversation leadership style. And yeah, he's made $1 billion. Whoop-de-doo. The dude is.
Oh, and he's lost it too. Don't get me wrong. He's lost it too.
Absolutely. He has put more companies out of business and people out of unemployment and shipped stuff offshore. He's just a facsimile of what is behind his bravado is an empty shell.
Right.
And that's his narcissism. But that is taken over the predominant position of entrepreneurs right now.
So one thing I want to address is Kyle. Kyle is saying he's a small for sure, small business for sure. I consult with small business and residential. Even that model, and this is kind of where I play, it's even that model of business, you still need to look at your insurance and your protection too. So, I mean, you might want to have just a quick conversation with Teddy to see kind of what you can do for yourself, because there's things that you said, like it can't be, you said, can't say I do, to be honest. How to protect your business, how to protect yourself, just have the conversation. Just so what happens is you're mindful, because the point of this whole chat is to educate yourself on protecting yourself online, offline. We talk about cybersecurity, but cybersecurity touches all areas: personal, professional, your family, everything. So if you're not looking at
part of the growth strategy for a business is, if you're going to grow your business and you're going to take on larger and larger projects, your clients are going to require you to have limits of liability insurance. They're going to demand it, and they're going to want to be named as a co-insured. So you have that insurance in advance. You can't do it after the fact, after you sign an agreement. That's part of the contingencies of the terms and conditions of negotiating larger jobs. So
exactly, and that's one of the things you look at. Actually, let Kyle say, I agree with you guys 100%. Just one of those things on the list that I need to move closer to the top. Kyle, where do you practice your business? Is it in Canada? Is it the United States? U.S.
Yeah.
Okay, you're in the U.S. I'm telling you this right now, working with U.S. companies, consulting for them, you need to do it now, because liability insurance and that insurance is key, especially when you're dealing with your small business and residential. If anything happens, slip and fall, you make a mistake, you are held liable. So, especially in the States, where I've had experience talking to people where people will sue for anything. Right, and it doesn't mean you might be the best business. You might be giving the great customer service. You just might hit that bad client, that one bad client that gives you a bad experience, and now you're like up shit's creek, because now you have to get a lawyer, you have to do all this stuff, and it really affects your business. And it can affect your PR, because now people are talking about, Kyle came and he did all this, and now it's terrible.
Oh, he's talking about strategic, like thinking hit by a bus.
Oh, insurance is good, but I'm talking about a backup hit by a bus, and that's that too. I mean, that's why I said talk to the insurance about having the insurance, and they'll have the plans that encompass them all. It's not just you have insurance of liability insurance, but you have the hit by a bus plan as well.
And that's
got a question.
Part of it, because the key man policies are part of hit by the bus. So if you have a producer or a leader in the company and he doesn't have insurance on him, you can't replace that person hit by the bus. So the insurance would have limits that give you the ability to go out and hire somebody and a long enough runway to bridge this time while you process the transition. And that's what that value is. Typically, it's $250,000 to start for a key man policy.
And then we've got Monty's asking a question here. Spy Gadget Rental. Someone you guys need to check out. How to maximize security training with gamification.
He's a blab jacker. He just comes into blabs and advertises and then runs away. He's done that to me like 4 different times. I do a blab and I'm saying, whoa, dude. It's kind of pleasant if you ask before you post. I mean, he just...
Oh, yeah?
He just come. I'm doing topics on keeping kids safe on the internet. He comes in and advertises his business on the side roll, doesn't participate in the chat or anything. It's like, dang, dude, chill out.
Well, I've talked to Monty, and he's been pretty good, but I think maybe he's changing his marketing strategy. It sounds like.
Well, I mean, yeah, because spam works. Yeah, but I just ask you to be respectful. You're the host. You have the ability to control whatever happens in the broadcast. I know when I'm the host and he comes in here, I'm like, get out. Have a conversation with me and say, hey, Ryan, would you mind if I advertise my business on cybersecurity safety gadgets? And I can have a conversation about it. But I just find that it's just bam, right in my face.
Right. And that's the challenge. I think what happens is, and we'll talk about like even that, bringing up that topic, is when you look at your security of content, information, and what people are doing. I think we're in that day and age when it comes to information is we think it's great because, you know, you have your social sites, you have Facebook, you have Blab, you have Twitter and Periscope and all these great, that there's all these forums that you can connect with people. But having the security to be able to block people, to, you know, authorize them, authenticate them to make sure they're the right people, right, is always so important, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're giving great content, great value. And when people are now not understanding how to do that and trying to speed up the process of pitching, constantly push marketing, it gives them a bad name. And a lot of clients don't want to work with them because at the end of the day, I want to work with someone that I can relate to, people that I know, like, and trust. Right? And that's kind of the philosophy when it comes to sales. You don't want to work with someone that's just going to go and then leave. Right? And that's what I said. I've talked to Monty before. Monty's
that's awesome. So that I was just making an observation because it's been an issue with my audience when I've had it just been a post and run. And my audience is like, Ryan, is this somebody that comes in and supports what you're doing? I'm like, I have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea.
Right. And that's why I said I've talked to Monty. He's a great guy, you know, in the sense of, you know, we're going to be doing an interview. He's an expert in his field too. I think, like I said, some people, you know, as you're starting to market business, you get so excited, you just kind of get out there.
That's cool.
But yeah, so cybersecurity, going back to that. When we're looking at kind of building a business, Desiree just jumped in and said, hey, Brian, teaching Twitter and you are live in a classroom, loving this. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me ask you guys, I mean, you know, going back to my main question, what is one concern you have today when it comes to cybersecurity that either you're seeing in the industry, you're dealing with personal? What is that one thing? Like, what do you think, Ryan? What would be one area that you'd be like, people need to know about this?
In cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity. I mean, you deal with kids, teenagers.
Router security.
Router? Okay. Yeah. What would you need to know about router security?
They should have the router secured.
Okay.
In a personal business, most people just get their high-speed internet connection from their local provider. The local provider provides them a local router. They plug it in. They might change the password. Most times they don't. They just stay with the default password. And they have no secondary or third level of protection on the router. So I say, secure the router, change the password, increase the controls on security controls, and then go for third-party solutions like Sophos or OpenDNS or other things to more securitize that router. Then go into the firewall and do firewall protection. If you don't do those things, then don't be surprised, upset, hurt when somebody comes in and pierces you and causes harm. So
Kyle's saying WPA2 encryption, change default password, both login and Wi-Fi key, and then disable WPS2. So, I mean, some good tips. I mean, one thing that you have to look at too is making sure you test out your routers. I know what happens is I found with some of the Linksys routers, the default password, even though you reset it, you can still get in with a min and min. If you know, like the IP address, and most of them are 192.168.1.2.1 or .1.1, you can get in there, and sure enough, you know, you're into the system. Desiree Brand, thanks for participating in the Blab. You're a great EBCC. Love communication with you. Talk to you soon. So Desiree is an actual Evernote business certified consultant that, you know, I work with. She's great, and then that's what she's just kind of saying there, so you guys know what EBCC stands for. Monty, you just commented, Monty, we are different. I simple ask that. And that's great. I mean, yeah, one of the things that's good about, you know, these challenges that people are talking about is that we kind of look at how to help each other. The biggest challenge I think I find is so many people are just kind of out there, like they just don't know. Oh, I got this application, I got this hardware. It's supposed to be good, but they don't ask the right questions. You know, is it secure? How do I secure it? If it gets compromised, what's the insurance? What's the protection if it does? You know, how's and a lot of people talking about routers, don't think about updating the operating system on it, right? And the firmware. They go, they don't think about, does it need to be patched? So these are the things that people have to think about when they're looking at securing their network, securing their applications, securing their software. And when they're purchasing, they go, yeah, Ryan told me to buy this router. Good, I'm going to go out to the store, I'm going to buy this router. But they don't go, okay, is it secure? How's the encryption? What happens? Does it have some sort of liability insurance? Like I know the Belkin products, we look at power bars and all that, they have some sort of insurance that if anything happens, there's like $1 million liability insurance. If it shorts out and it shorts out your system, they'll help to protect your system, especially when you're looking at the business brand versus the consumer brand where it's in your home where they'll give you $100,000, right? Things like that. Monty saying consumers rarely update their Wi-Fi routers firmware, leaving them vulnerable to hackers. And that's the thing. That's what I'm at. Like you need to ask how do I update the firmware? How do I connect it? Like these are questions as consumers, the general population needs to ask because a lot of us tech guys, kind of know. We're like, okay, yeah, it needs to be updated. I haven't updated in a while. Let me check the company. Some of us are so busy in the tech world, we forget. So we have to set up alerts and let us remind us that, oh, hey, I haven't done my backup. I haven't done my updates.
You don't want to be an early adopter as people went and downloaded Windows 10 when that update came and they weren't aware of what they were giving up on their privacy because of that immediate rush to update to Windows 10. So when you're making those updates, make sure you're informed as to what changes are going to be happening or what possible intrusions have happened because of that update.
Exactly. And then Kyle's saying UPS battery. Okay, so first Monty's saying consumers rarely update their Wi-Fi routers, firmware is leaving them hackable. Kyle's saying UPS, which is uninterrupted power supply. So anyone who's watching this, battery backups are a great option too. So how that works is normally between your wall and your device, you have an uninterrupted, a UPS in between, which actually holds a charge. So, and some of them are really good that it will shut off your system automatically. So I'll have a sense that there's power, the AC power goes down, then it'll still run your system, but then it'll actually shut it off naturally so that you won't have any problems of loss of data, loss of information, or kind of being shorted out. So good tip, Kyle.
That's an awesome one.
So like I was saying for, who else do we still got in here? Monty, Desiree's left. Teddy and Kyle, what is like one security thing that you guys are concerned about that you think people should know? I mean, we talked about routers. What's something that you guys want to bring into the forum? Because I know for me, one thing is I'm really mindful of is social engineering. I think people need to be more mindful of what's being put out there. What are they talking about? Who are they connecting with? I mean, I see this on LinkedIn constantly where people are always sending me requests, connection requests. And before marketing, I mean, you're like, yeah, I got to connect with everyone because I want to get, a big network. I want to generate leads. I want to do all these great things. But then all of a sudden what happens is I'm really, as I'm diving deeper into security, I don't know who these people are. I don't know really what they're trying to get. I don't want information. I don't know if I'm, giving too much information away. So through social engineering now, I'm learning that. Now I have a form. I have a questionnaire that I get people to fill out. And I know the difference between someone that's spamming me or someone just trying to collect information or maybe compromise me. Then I know that if they're not going to fill out that questionnaire or answer those questions, I don't want to connect with them. And sometimes I do 3 or 4 conversations with them to see if there's someone I want to connect with. Teddy, I'm concerned about traveling, using the internet in hotels. Good point. Right? How do you use the internet in hotels to be secure? And then this is Teddy was asking about this, and I was going to do a little bit of research, but maybe Ryan and Monty could talk about this. Do you guys recommend any VPN? Is there a VPN software that you guys recommend, or client/server?
That's available through Sophos. Sophos has that option that you can have a VPN on your desktop. Oh, I'll type it in here.
So like I said, for me, that's social traveling. I mean, you got to be mindful too, because man-in-the-middle attacks, right? You might think you're connected to your hotel's Wi-Fi, but you're not. You're actually connected to a hacker's router, and then you're going to them. So man-in-the-middle attacks, being spoofed, right, in the sense of someone cloning your information and recapturing it. So there's a lot of great things out there that can happen when you're traveling. So, and then things of personal security on this side is don't post your pictures while you're away.
Right, GPSs.
take your pictures, do all that great stuff, everything that you do, take off geotagging, and then what happens is when you get home, then post your pictures, right? And don't take your your vacations on a scheduled time each year. Like every February, you're going away. It affects your personal security. What else we got? ProTech, another well-reviewed VPN here. Private internet access. Monty saying it's too funny. I hear that all the time. Teddy saying I purchased a cheap little router. Hutu, that's supposed to be secure. So again, when you look at traveling, I mean, one of the things I was watching for a while there was Scam City. I don't know if you guys watched that show, but they talk about how people have different scams, right? Like even they were showing how, say you had a phone on your coffee, like you're having a coffee at a cafe and you have your phone down, how someone would come talk to you and someone would grab your phone, right? Like the misdirection, all these different types of compromise, right? Or if you're trying to connect to Wi-Fi and you're looking at the SSID, and you're trying to connect, you think, oh, that's the hotel, and you connect, and it gets a splash screen that comes up, and they go, oh, enter your username and password, create a username and password. Well, through social engineering, what we all know is most people will use the same username and same password as they do for all sites. So they put it in, and guess what? I'm in. All right, and then ProTech guy, so Kyle saying,
buy honeypots. That's funny. That's funny.
So, Kyle, do you want to explain a little bit what honeypots are?
Oh,
because I mean, from what I've heard from on the server side, honeypots are generally a capturing area where you want to capture hackers that are coming in. So it's an open area where basically hackers can go in potentially and see, oh, we've connected to the network, and they try to hack in there. So I want to see what Kyle says about what a Wi-Fi honeypot is. Christopher, is there any security to protect special needs people like me? I am severely autistic and wear a sensor face wrap to keep me calm, but what can I use to protect myself on the internet with special needs? Well, what we'll have to do is, if you want to post the other tools, I'm just trying to look at, if you want to post in the manufacturer of the sensory face wrap that you wear, what we can do is we can kind of look up and see if there's any type of encryption, anything along that line. Ryan saying that is something that I deal with. Your parents can go to Parent Home, which is great. There you go. So you can talk to Ryan after and see if, from his articles, some forms of encryption, something that you can look at as well as you can inform and educate your parents about.
I have tons of stuff for you on that, Christopher. Tons. It's an educational platform. So just bounce over to that website and you'll hear more of what I do and why I do what I do. And then that will get you in the direction.
And then Kyle's saying, well, the TLDR is a name of my Wi-Fi hotspot. Starbucks said is near Starbucks, and then steal info. Customers would think it's a real Starbucks, right? And he's talking about honeypot, man-in-the-middle attack, kind of the same thing. Customers would then think it's Starbucks, connect to it, and in reality, it is just to set up a grab into passwords, confidential information, all the data. Parent Dome, can you hop on so I can get?
I'm sitting right here. That's me. I'm Parent Dome.
Yeah, so Ryan's right beside me. Actually, still want a few photos on Twitter. So I mean, yeah, what you can do is you can connect with Ryan. He's got a lot of great resources. Did you provide your website, Ryan?
I did. Email me.
So, guys, is there any questions that you have on? I mean, we're coming up. And this has been great. It's been an hour and a half. Wow. We're just coming up for an hour and 24 minutes. I'm going to be finishing up now in about 6 minutes. So, is there any questions that you guys have that you may want the guys in the chat to answer, or myself or Ryan to answer?
I think your issue of cybersecurity is a multi-episode topic, because I just said the router, and then going from the router to your firewall, then it gets into which devices, which applications, which software, where your vulnerabilities lie. You talked about the financial pieces, so I think you've got a couple episodes in here.
I'm sure I do. Now I have a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Since we're waiting for people to chime in and see if the question. Have you heard of DeFOO and FOO?
As in Ubuntu foo?
Which one's that?
As an open source?
No, as family of origin.
Oh, okay. No, well, yes and no.
Okay, so what happens is, I was watching a documentary called Darknet, and they were talking about this one individual who was educating children how to DeFOO, and basically is disconnecting from the family of origin.
Is that similar to region encoding?
It might be, I'm not sure, but what I saw was the DeFOOing was kids were being taught through YouTube videos and podcasts that their parents were bad, they were a poor infrastructure, they shouldn't be learning from them, and they need to disconnect from their family of origin, which meant their mother, their father, any of their siblings, their relatives, and completely disconnect and go out on their own. So something that, if you haven't heard of it, something maybe you want to research.
I will.
Because what happens, and this is where I'm saying, like, when it comes to cybersecurity, there's so many facets of it, so many different areas of it. And like I said, I'm still learning, where you got the psychology, you've got the technology, you've got the relationship, you got business, you got, personal, and you got how it affects. And this family had talked about it. They thought their daughter was great. No problems. Then she started to isolate herself, and she was on the internet. She was getting this information they didn't know. And then what happened from one to another, all of a sudden she was gone. Like, in the sense of, she moved out in the middle of the day when they weren't home, and she was gone. So then what happened was they tried to find her. They tried to reach her. They got the police involved, and they couldn't find her. And it took a while, to the point where then she started posting blog posts saying she's okay, and she's this, but I don't want anything to do with you because, and then she started to quote the teachings that she got. And it was scary to the point that you think of this young little girl got this information from the interweb to disconnect, and they brainwashed her that her parents were bad. Right? Even though parents are not perfect, and not, let me first say that parents will never be perfect. We're always learning, we're always developing, but they try to do their best. Right? And there's some situations, don't get me wrong, I understand there's children that are abused and go through bad situations, and there's systems out there to help you and to do that. But overall, parents are trying to do their best thing. And now these kids are being taught, these parents who might be going into a little bit of a challenge, might not be saying the right thing to them or whatever, that they need to disconnect. Right? And thanks, Kyle. Make sure you follow me and come out to the next one. So they're disconnecting from them. And then what's happening from there is they're gone. Like, they're completely gone. And they're memorized, like, they're brainwashed that parents are terrible. Don't deal with them. They're this bad thing. And I'll see if I can find it, because I remember doing the research on it, and it was scary. Stefan Molinix, and I'll actually post it in the chat here. That's his YouTube channel. And then here's one for kids and for family members. I'm talking about cults, different types of cults, and they have been ranked in this list. So bring this back to cybersecurity. Parents, and Ryan, I think, will contest this, need to be involved in what the technology and what kids are working with, and have ongoing conversations, because the compromise for a child to get the wrong information and be influenced is so easy in this day and age with the amount of information out there. So that's what I'm saying. Cybersecurity is just not my technology, not just, hey, I got to secure my data and make sure I'm backed up from my company. There's so many aspects, because let's give a scenario here. Say that young girl in that scenario got compromised, right? She got compromised. That cult told her to get your family's bank account information, credit card information. You have to pay a certain amount, but you have to go get this information. What happens is, now you start to run a risk that now you as a parent are compromised. Now, if you get compromised, and say your business is protection, right, and liabilities, now you get compromised, now potentially your business get compromised. So that whole thing started at that one incident that you're not connecting with your kids. Now it becomes this big scenario that affects the whole family. So
that I was just skimming through that. My gosh, I know. What's that? Why am I? It's weird. I don't have any. There is a whole. I never heard it as DeFOO.
Right.
I've never heard of that, but I'm familiar with the behavior of people doing that, being the catalyst to cause that separation.
Right.
Because it is happening all over social media. Live streaming is one of the best tools that people are using to uncouple, to be the catalyst, to drive the wedge between. This is part of the tools that are being used in the extremist type of environments. You link it to cults, sure. ISIS, another tool. Unbelievable.
That's like we were talking about. The one challenge is that parents kind of think of, or they might be linear in their thinking. Well, it's the device. It's this. It's the computer. And that's all it is. I don't have to worry about the conversations that we have to have after. And this is the thing where we look at compromises, is that compromises come from any direction. It's not just, oh, I got to have a virus scanner and I'm going to have that and now I'm protected. Life's good. I can go back to my business. There are so many aspects when it comes to vulnerabilities or risks. When it comes to cybersecurity, it can hit you in all different directions. And you might think you have the best security system, but because you talk to a person at a Starbucks and said, oh, yeah, I have this deal going through, I'm working with this system, that system, and all of a sudden you get compromised, you go, oh, my God, how'd this happen? There's all these different vulnerabilities that we need to consider. And that's why having these conversations, having yourself and, Kyle and Monty and Teddy come out is so essential that we build this community to have these conversations.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. Yeah, I just got a book delivered that I'm halfway through. It's about the collapse of parenting and what that really looks like from a global study, not just this man has spent 15 years traveling the globe, analyzing different cultures and the relationship of parents. And the friendship is the dominant relationship inside the family dynamic. It's not parent, caregiver, child, it's friend. Right. And that is a dangerous, we're seeing the consequences of that transition of the authoritarian to the friend.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then, you guys watching this, and something that I'd recommend you connecting with, if you've stayed this long in this video, thank you so much. But what I'd recommend is check out Parent Dome, check out Ryan. When you're looking at anything to do with parents, families, kids, and protection, cybersecurity, information, technology, you got to go check out Ryan because he's a resource of information. And as you can see, collaboration too. We have experts that we're working with, right, that, were developed. So make sure you check that out. Now, it's 12:30 right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this off. You just want to hold out for a second, Ryan?
Sure.
I'm going to finish this off. Thank you so much for coming. Next Tuesday, I know, like I said, Brian Franzo was supposed to come out this week, but he had to cancel last minute. I'm going to be back to my Tuesdays. We're going to change the time to 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you guys come out. Make sure you follow me at knssconsulting.com. A lot of great information. I have a support community there for you guys. So thank you so much for watching this long, and I really appreciate it.